But at the same time, when you get those successes, it means so much, and you understand, you know, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I think it just propels you.
I know that you all have so much going on in the community, and you're constantly doing so many projects. I know you must have a lot of great community partners, private organizations who help you get the job done at the end of the day. Can you talk a little bit about some of those partnerships?
Sure, it's been really amazing. Obviously, I talked a little bit about the neighborhood associations, and really they are, I think, the unsung heroes about this in total rebuilding of our city. The civic pride that's been generated post-Katrina, and what it really takes out of a neighborhood association is tremendous. You know, the Broadmoor Improvement Association, the Faubourg St. Roch, all of them have just been incredible. Holy Cross has just done phenomenal work down there. And that's been very valuable. And our program also morphs according to their needs. Like in Holy Cross, they want to come back as a sustainable community.
Right.
And so we do a lot of bulk purchasing with them of radiant barrier and green things. And it's great because we can translate it across the city. With Broadmoor, they have really instituted some great database techniques that we've, again, kind of adopted, and then now we share that with other neighborhood associations. Holly Grove has been remarkable with their AmeriCorps program, and we've also translated that. So those have been really unique. And then with our local sponsors and teams has been wonderful. I mean, we had them before the storm, and it's been so heartwarming to see them coming back after the storm and working on the houses. So we've had some great partnerships with, you know, like with Chevron and Shell, and then our banks like Whitney Bank, and so and they've been with us from the very beginning, which is almost 21 years.
That's great.
So it really is. It really is. And we have new partnerships that are formed. We have a whole component called voluntourism with groups that come in from out of town, and they come here for a convention or an annual meeting, and that's been remarkable. Groups such as Starbucks has worked with us.
Very cool.
Cliff Bar, and you know, and so that to me is also heartwarming. It's a great blending of who we are as a city and how the rest of the country views us, and it's a great way.
So how does Rebuilding Together New Orleans accomplish its mission on a day-to-day basis? What steps are you taking?
Well, I think a lot of it is leveraging our resources. You know, we have to be prepared for the long haul, and as locals, we know you know, it's going to take 10 to 15 years to get us to where we were before the storm, and that wasn't that great shakes, right, for our housing. So with that being said, we need to know and how to maximize our resources. So volunteers are a huge part of what we do, and we use them to do a lot of the heavy lifting in the field, but we also have a much more I would say a larger staff that really works out as well. So we have like an office staff and a field staff. So we have construction managers on staff now. We have handymen that work with us constantly. We have a supply and warehouse manager. We have a warehouse operation.
I wanted to ask you about that. You have a warehouse, and I've heard so much about it. So what do you store there? What goes on in the warehouse?
Well, the warehouse is great because we've even had it before the storm, which really allowed us to increase our capacity substantially after the storm. It's a 30,000 square foot warehouse. It's the Preservation Resource Center warehouse, and then we've also added properties along. And we do a lot of things. When I talk about leveraging, the warehouse has been huge because we can purchase our materials in bulk, which again gives us a much better pricing system when we purchase our materials. It also enables us to receive large-scale donations. You know, a lot of people realized after the storm that vendors and different groups like Hardy Plank, they are one of our donors, which is a fabulous product. And so, but they, you know, where do you store it if they want to send you a big shipment, or tile? We get all of our tile donated. And so by having this, we're able to keep it in-house and then, you know, peel it off obviously as we need it. So that's been very worthwhile. And then we've also expanded our programs into salvage. We have a salvage store.
I was going to ask you, you have all of these great materials. You have a store, a salvage store.
We do, and that was really an intriguing partnership, the way that all kind of started. And what happened was, as part of the Preservation Resource Center, they were, you know, when the demolition started through FEMA, and there were federally funded demolitions, the concern was that these demolitions would occur and they would be unnecessary. And so they really wanted to advocate and ensure that a house that needed to be torn down did in fact need to be torn down, and that they tore down the right one. So, you know, the PRC was very active, and we actually formed a partnership with FEMA and said, okay, if a house has to be torn down, then we want the items that we can recycle and reuse. And so that's kind of was the genesis of the salvage store. So we started getting doors and windows and mantles from houses that were being torn down across the city.
Right.
And then we can use them for our material stream, for our rebuilds, plus we can sell them to the general public. And that to me is hugely valuable, because I think people may remember right after the storm we had a lot of disreputable contractors that came through and proceeded to rape our communities and take our doors, take our brackets, and they sent them across the country. We're ensuring that this stream stays in New Orleans. Also, it's remarkable to go through the warehouse because you see the addresses of the houses that they came from.
Yeah.
So then our people know that they actually they weren't stolen.
Right.
That they understand the provenance of these items.
And you know, speaking of the provenance, I know that you have some really great items in there. A friend told me about a series of clocks that all stopped the day of Katrina at a certain time.
At the same time when the waters came. Because we've formed partnerships with RSD, with the Recovery School District. So when they have to tear down a building, we get to go through and determine which items we can recycle into the community. And so that's been very important. So we've received just some tremendous items that have great, a lot of value, I think, even emotionally for all of us.
Sure.
One of my amazing things that I remember finding, and I went through one of the schools, was a map of the United States, and the water line just stopped at New Orleans. And it was quite.
It's no longer a map. At this point, it's art.
Yeah, exactly, and it means something so
Timepiece.
much more to us. And these are things that would wind up in the landfill, and I think we all have to recognize that. Katrina and Rita generated 37 years of landfill, just those two storms.
Wow.
When we talk about rebuilding this city, we need to acknowledge that, and we need to figure out a way of incorporating construction debris into our new built construction and into our rebuilds, and that's very important. And there's certain partnerships that have formed that are very commendable. The Louisiana Land Trust, which receives all the road home properties, we have created a partnership with them in that any house that they own that is, and currently they own over 10,000 properties across Louisiana.
Wow. In
Orleans Parish alone, it's well over 5,000. We are able to go through the ones that have been slated for demolition, salvage those materials, and put them back into the stream. Those strategic partnerships with LLT, RSD, we're really trying to also change the mindset of recycling and rebuilding and what we can do and do it right, and what it means to New Orleanians. Because I think, we all have that identity. And and sometimes we all understand that things have to be taken down at times, but there are a lot of things that we can save.
Right. Sometimes deconstruction is part of the process, and it gives us something great,
right,
like the warehouse, which we actually have some footage of. So let's take a look.
The warehouse is the heart of our operation. So on an average day, what happens is we open at 7:30 in the morning. Our teams of AmeriCorps and handymen and construction managers leave from here. We have 7 vehicles that leave every morning to our sites, and they load and offload materials. Everything that we keep here are our standard materials that we use in all our rebuilds. We try to standardize materials so that we can maximize the cost of the materials as well as the use. Like, for example, when we use the paint, we try to have standard paint colors so that whenever we have leftovers, we don't have to recycle it or send it away or anything. We can just reuse it in another project that uses the same color. We probably go through a couple thousand gallons of paint a year. If you're thinking about this year, we're going to rebuild 200 houses. That's going to include probably at least 15,000 gallons of paint that we're going to be using throughout the year. We have all our salvage lumber that we try to reuse and put back into the houses that came from houses that were demolished.
We are in the lower 9th Ward. These houses are slated for demolition, and so they will be just demolished and all the materials will be brought to the landfill. And so what we try to do is get our foot in the door with these kinds of projects to save these materials from going to the landfill, where we come in and we extract flooring, doors, windows, ceiling board, fireplace surrounds, and with these materials we'll bring them back to our warehouse and process them. Exactly. New Orleans is pretty unique for the nation. They have a lot of historical elements, and a lot of the lumber isn't made anymore, and it's just invaluable now.